You are listening to Pivot Parenting, episode 220, Why We Sit in Tough Parenting Spots Instead of Making Changes. I'm your host and teen expert, Heather Frazier, teen whisperer, author, your virtual best friend. I am here for you, my friend, and I am still working on updating my podcast. I'm so excited for all of the future changes coming. You're going to love them. And today, we are talking about one of my favorite things, and it's how our brains mess with us and we don't even see it. Little backstory on how exciting this is. My youngest is a wild sleeper. She always has been. She's that kid that made that transition from crib to bed with, those like little things you can put under the mattress that it's like a wall. It comes up and it has a bar with some netting so that they don't roll out of bed. She had one of those for a very long time on her bed. Eventually, we rearranged rooms. She got her own room, and her mattress was on the floor because she's such a roly-poly. Well, she just had her 14th birthday and is getting better at staying in her bed. Not perfect. Some mornings I come in and she's clear across the room, fast asleep. It's pretty hilarious. But it has been a long time since she's had the safety net and since she's really rolled out of bed. Sometimes she still is on the floor, but she wants a room makeover. She wants furniture, which is fine. I'm not opposed to it. But she is also a collector. She has more treasures in her room than you can shake a stick at. Like insane amounts of stuff. So we struck a deal. This summer, she just needs to declutter her room, and I am more than happy to help her, and we will go and get her new furniture. She can pick out what she wants. Right now, she has the cute Costco white little girl furniture with like the flowers and the knobs, and she's had it her whole life, but she wants a big girl room, and I totally get that. We repainted over the little girl wall paint a few years ago, and we probably will again. She's really into sage green right now. But nothing has changed. We're like a month into her room, and her room is still just as cluttered as it was. Why? Why, when something she wants so desperately is on the other side of cleaning her room, which again, I have offered to help her with. I know it can feel really overwhelming when there is so much and she's such like a little treasure keeper. This is what we're talking about today. We all do this in our own special way when left unchecked. I hear parents all around me, friends, sometimes when I'm getting my hair done, family, clients, and even sometimes myself. We say that we want something that we know can be in our power, or I know is completely in their power to accomplish, and then nothing happens. They do nothing. This is such a weird phenomenon when you just look at, you've explained this to me multiple times, and yet you're not doing anything. I have friends who want to clean out their garage. I have closets that I want to clean out. My daughter wants to clean things out. I hear people talk about relationships that they want to improve, and nothing happens. On the outside, it can be very confusing. We can say, well, they don't really want it, or they aren't willing to put in the work. But I'm here to offer that that's not necessarily true. I think that we do want those things, but there's a few things at play that we don't understand what's happening in our own brain or with friends and family or with our kids. A lot of times I've heard parents say, my kid really wants to go out for track, or they want to try out, for debate or whatever it is, and then their kid doesn't. And they're so confused, they can get really frustrated. We did all of these things, and then they didn't even go for it. There's a logical reason why our kids are staying with unkind friends, why they're not seeking out their goals. There's a whole assortment of reasons. So we're going to break this down into two categories that I'm going to discuss with you today. One, I'm going to make sense of the seeming madness of why don't your actions match your words or your desires. And then number two, what actually fixes the issue. And it's not people complaining or getting upset or threatening or bribing. And it's not even letting go of what we think that we want. Have you seen people fake? Like, oh, I don't want that anymore. But you know that they do. And it's not manipulating or strong-arming. It's none of those things that are the fix. Are you ready? Number one, making sense of the madness. There is one reason for most of this, and I've discussed it on a few other episodes, so you might already know the answer. But all of us, we've got this most basic primal part of our brain. It's called the amygdala. It's right around our brainstem. So our brainstem, we've got all of the basic functioning like breathing and our heart beating and digestion. That's the most basic thing. The next layer is our amygdala. And oftentimes, this is the part of our brain that's doing the driving on our day-to-day behaviors. And this is to our detriment, my friend, because this part of our brain has three jobs only. Well, one job to keep us alive, and it does it in three ways. Number one, to conserve energy. This is the part of our brain that doesn't want to get up and do the thing. It's easier to want someone else to do the work, or for it to just magically disappear. For parents, this can sound like time is all that's needed to get your teen to obey or to change. We just need to let time do its thing. Time will help them care about things that are important or the situation to shift and provide relief. Because if it's just time that needs to run its course, then there's nothing for us to do. Boom, we've conserved energy. This is complaining, and that's about it. It's staying confused and blaming others, maybe denial of what's happening, because when it's your spouse, your teen, their friends, the situation causing your pain, then you've got nothing to do except wait and wish it away. Maybe complain, maybe relate to other parents having the same struggle, and then you feel better. This part of your brain never wants there to be anything for you to do that is unpleasant or time-consuming or hard. Too much energy, too much pain, which is the second part of our brain, or second thing that our brain is intent on, rather, which is to avoid pain or what is hard. Your teen or spouse might not like you changing or doing things differently. They'll push against it. They'll throw a fit. They'll push back. Even if they didn't, behaving differently is still hard and can be painful. So maybe they won't argue with the new system that you want to try or the new changes that you're trying to make within yourself. But still, that is painful because we have to remember, did you know that your brain autopilots so much? That's why, have you ever gone on vacation and it's exhausting even though you're not really doing much? Because your brain can't autopilot as much. In your own home, it doesn't need to think about getting where you need to go. It just walks you there while it's relaxing. But on vacation, you have to remember, how do I find my room? Where do I get to where I want to be? And your brain really cannot autopilot anything on vacation. Therefore, it is working harder. Therefore, you are more exhausted. Kind of wild, right? Our brain wants to autopilot everything. And when we try to learn new things and implement those things, it can no longer autopilot. And that is low-key, painful, or hard. And so it wants to avoid that. Not wanting to recognize how we're contributing to the problem, because that's painful to see our shortcomings or how we could do better. Our brain doesn't want to see that either. Learning new ways of parenting is hard and time-consuming, or so our brain wants to sell us that story. So we often become apathetic. We give up. It's easier to give up hope than find where change lives and how to bring it about sometimes. Super common when dealing with mental illness or other health challenges. And so this part of our brain tells ourselves, maybe they'll learn how to deal with their ADHD. Maybe this will just go away. It will be better when they graduate high school. And we just think time will fix it. Maybe my spouse won't notice and respond badly. It's super common when this part of our brain is at play to keep one parent out of the loop to avoid pain. But this isn't helping the larger issue at hand. If one parent can't handle what's going on, that's another problem that needs to be dealt with. This can often be triggers, yours, theirs, and modeling for your kids how to properly walk on eggshells around somebody in the family is far less helpful than modeling how to heal and behave in emotionally intelligent ways. We lie to ourselves that whatever's happened was a one-off and that it won't happen again. Have you ever done that? Did you know that I coach a lot on marriage? And a lot of times they'll think, oh, well, that was just because this was happening or that was happening. But if I dig a little bit deeper, it's a pattern. It's not a one-off. And so their brain is lying to them to avoid the pain of confronting the marital issue or the issue with their teenager. Well, I saw them sexting and we talked about it and it's taken care of. But I'm also avoiding looking at their phone anymore or having any more conversations with them because it's so uncomfortable. But the truth is, we can avoid repeating what is painful when we deal with it, instead of buying into the lie that we don't actually have to learn how to do something differently. We actually do, which isn't very fun. And that's the third thing that this part of our brain is functioning from, which is seeking pleasure. So our amygdala is trying to save our lives by conserving energy, avoiding pain or what is hard, and seeking pleasure. My friend, learning can be hard. It's also really rewarding, but this part of our brain only labels it as hard or impossible. Becoming something that is more evolved and intelligent is hard. Our most primal instincts don't like hard. They like fun. Eating is way more fun instead of parenting. So we give our kids snacks and we think they just need food. Now, being hangry is a real thing, but that's the first step, not the only step. Feed your kid, then have the conversation. Not saying the truth, but placating around the situation is easier. So less painful, more fun, especially if the placating is something like food or being with our friends playing pickleball instead of parenting. Sitting on our phones instead of looking our kid in the eye and stepping up to the challenge. Thinking that a family vacation is what is needed instead of professional help. Watching Netflix over a more interactive evening spent when valuable conversations could be more easily had. And our kids do this too. They would much rather be with their friends than at home if home is currently hard. They will escape wherever they can because they would much rather have fun than deal with what is hard. Fun wins every time when our emotions are driving. And unfortunately, this part of our brain is typically the driver of our day-to-day interactions unless we are consciously aware of it and redirect and create other habits. This is our default setting. So if you're recognizing yourself in this, please don't beat yourself up. Congratulations, you're human. This is how we are hardwired to behave from. It takes a very evolved human to recognize and behave differently. So please be kind to yourself. So when we put this trifecta, again, it is conserving energy, avoiding pain or what is hard, and seeking pleasure. When we put these three things with whatever is individually going on for us, hunger, perhaps perimenopause, which is throwing me for a wild emotional loop right now. TMI, sorry. But it's a real thing. Marital strife, money stress, lack of sleep. The third time that we've discovered what they're up to, that they swore they'd stop, and we're at the end of our rope. It's easy to see why we react poorly, why we spin in heartache and confusion and end up doing nothing besides what we're already doing that clearly doesn't work. Like driving our kids where they need to go, feeding the kids, getting work done, avoiding doing things that feel good instead of doing things that would be helpful. And the cycle continues. And we tell ourselves that it will be better tomorrow. And then tomorrow happens. Maybe it was better, maybe it was worse. But as the weeks go by, we aren't getting any closer to the big picture goal that we want. And then, on top of this as well, do you see how this is so layered? We have triggers, or in other words, what lights up our nervous system into dysregulation. And what I mean by that is fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. This is also at play a majority of our lives, my friend. If you are running from fire to fire, if you are addicted to fixing things, if you get really upset really easily, or if you shut down really easily, or if you self-betray and people please to not rock the boat, if that's your stat, I don't want to rock the boat. Let's just keep everybody happy, even though that's not what I want or what I think is best. I'm not going to say anything. If this is how you're showing up typically in your day, we need to talk because you're living in dysregulation. And this is no way to live. I know this because flight was my soup du jour for a good many years. Running around, getting a high off of seeing how much I could get done, but in a very frantic, frenzied, unrestful, I need to do this to feel valuable kind of way. It is not fun and it is not helpful. Let's look at some ways that I have seen triggers or a dysregulated nervous system play into clients that I have helped. Did your parents yell whenever you tried to stand up for yourself and correct you and strong arm you? That probably makes it really hard to have honest conversations with your kids and spouse. That's a nervous system issue. It can be repaired and healed. Did you never feel safe expressing emotion because you grew up in an emotionally unsafe home? This will play into your parenting and how you connect and relate with your kids. If you can't show them that you are sad, if you cannot expose weakness to them, this is a problem that you came upon honestly. It's not your fault, but it does need repair. Did you learn from your partner that pointing out where someone fell short was dealt with poorly? And now you fear kindly correcting your kids. When you have two partners raising kids, you have two nervous systems with vastly different hardwiring based off of your childhood, because that's when your nervous system was being constructed from, pre-birth until about the age of 25. That's when your brain was learning what was safe and what was dangerous, mainly from your family of origin. And when you put two different adults with two different experiences, you typically, when I'm coaching people on marriage, you have a runner and a chaser. And the runner was taught that it was dangerous to show emotion, to be vulnerable. And then you have the chaser, and they chase the person because in their family of origin, it was more of like a fight type situation. And so they think that the runner is abandoning the marriage because they won't talk it out. But the runner is terrified because the chaser is reminding them of their parents. Anyway, it's this whole cycle, and it plays into your parenting and your marriage. And just so you know, nobody escapes childhood without trauma. Definitely some is far more marked and worse than others. And even if you had great parents, no parents are perfect. Just so you know, you're going to traumatize your kids. I traumatized mine, and our parents traumatized us, and our kids are going to traumatize their kids to varying degrees. Sometimes it is intentional, and sometimes it is unintentional. But it is unavoidable. And so triggers come into our parenting from our family of origin, from coaches, from teachers, from all the people growing up that taught us what was safe and what was dangerous. So if your parents ever yelled at you when you tried to stand up for yourself, again, it's going to have a hard time having conversations. If you learned from your partner that being honest about your needs, it's going to be really, really scary to share your needs. A really heartbreaking and common one that I see is parents who can't dial into their intuition because they've been modeled that you must look outward to find peace and guidance, that you cannot trust your gut or the spirit or your instinct. I see this the most with women because it is a very common flavor of patriarchy, and it's so common and pervasive. It comes from all angles: media, religion, culture, even our families. Fear-based parents can teach their kids to default to their expertise rather than teaching them how to trust themselves. This leads to adults who struggle to recognize and solve their own issues without defaulting to some kind of authority, typically a man in power. These are all things, by the way, that I work with my clients all the time and can entirely be undone so that you can listen to your own intuition, so that you can heal your traumas, so that you can recognize your triggers and rewire them. Did you know I did a trauma certification so that I could help my clients with this? Now, granted, some kinds of traumas I refer out. I'm aware of a bunch of different modalities, and we can talk about these together. General traumas, I'm happy to work with clients. Specific, highly abusive, intentional traumas, I typically refer out, or I am a part of a team that is working through those. But your primitive brain is keenly aware of your wounds and traumas and will avoid these pains as much as possible, even when it makes no sense, seemingly, in the situation. I want to share a quick story with you. I can't remember if I've shared it here before or not. But when I was really little, before I even started kindergarten, I had a lazy eye. And I hated wearing my glasses and the eye patch because I hated how people would look at me. And so I would hide my eyeglasses. I would hide my eye patches. And so eventually I needed surgery. And again, this was before kindergarten, and I remember it so vividly because it was so traumatic. The nurses said that I could hold down the gas mask on my face if I would just keep it there. And you know how little kids are. Like, they think that they can trick everybody. And so I just held my breath and put the gas mask on, la, 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 la. And then when I needed a breath, I would kind of scoot to the side, take a breath that was not the gas mask, and then put it back on my face and hold my breath, la, 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 la. Well, that was silly of me because, of course, the nurses were going to know. A, I wasn't falling asleep, and B, they were watching me, so they saw exactly what I was doing. So they all dogpiled on me and held me down with the mask on my face, and I fell asleep to them holding me down with this gas mask on my face. I did not like that. That was traumatic to me. Fast forward, I am now in high school in AP biology. We're going to do a lab. I walk into the room and my blood pressure spikes. My pulse races. I start sweating and I don't know why, but I want to run from the room like nobody's business. Like, I want to bolt. I am freaking out and I do not know why. And then I realize it is the smell. My brain remembered that smell from when I was 4 years old, and flew up the danger signals in my brain sky high. I was going to be held down. I was going to be dealt with beyond my will, and I needed to run. Now, to everybody in the class, had I run out, they would have been like, she's crazy. What is she doing? Did you see how panicked she was? What's going on with her? It would not have made sense. But to my brain, in that instance, it made perfect sense for me to want to run. Now, my desire to fit in and not look weird overpowered my desire to run. So I stayed in the class and I was able to calm myself down. But it was shocking to me that in that moment, my nervous system was so quickly triggered that I didn't even know why I needed to get out of that room until much later. But this is what our nervous system does. It can look crazy or not make sense if you just are a casual observer. But when you understand the history, the reasons why, then it makes perfect sense. This is why it's really important to understand what upsets you. What do you feel unsafe with? And have an expert, a professional, to work through that with. Then, on top of the nervous system, the other layer, so we have our amygdala, we have our nervous system, and then add on a lack of not knowing what to do different that would be helpful, a lack of skill. It is no wonder, my friend, we feel stuck. Seriously, who wouldn't feel stuck with those odds stacked against them? Confusion and lack of awareness that things could be better quickly rather than letting time do its work are even more reason why parents don't do anything. Please, 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 if any of this lands with you, have so much compassion for yourself. I promise it makes sense why you're all talk and no move. My friend, also, time heals all wounds. That little phrase, it's false. Yes, we might dwell less on what we dislike over time, but our nervous systems are still hardwired around that hardship. And the only way to undo that is with intention. So maybe you're thinking you're broken or incapable of change at this point. Again, that is your brain not wanting to do the work. I promise you are not broken. It does not matter what traumas you have lived through, what traumas you have incited against your family. Any of those things, I promise it makes perfect sense, all of it. Please, this is just another sneaky little lie that your primitive brain uses to avoid healing wounds and dealing with trauma, because that is hard and uncomfortable and takes a lot of energy, but so does avoiding them. There's this little phrase that I like, and it's pay me now or pay me later, but either way, you're going to pay me. And that's because your brain will exact payment or pain and suffering over the course of every human life. You cannot avoid it. How I see this play out in real time is if parents fall in line with this more primitive part of our brain instead of stepping into a more intentional way of approaching issues, then it is easier up front. It is easier to avoid pain, seek pleasure, not deal with trauma. That is easier up front. I'll give it to you. It is, but it's not easy, because this is what parents do until they hit rock bottom, and then they come to me or people like me to move through it, which is paying later. They wait until it blows up and they have to pay a bigger price later. What I suggest is that parents pay early and upfront so that they never have the big balloon payment down the road. So prepaying with the pain and discomfort of dealing with primitive brain habits of dealing with wounds that need to be healed that are showing up, that's the kind of pain and discomfort that benefits you later on rather than creating a bigger problem later on. So going back to my daughter and her bedroom, she wants a room makeover and she can totally have one. She just has to do the work of decluttering her room. But when her primitive brain comes into play of conserving energy, avoiding pain or hardship, and seeking pleasure, it is undesirable to do what it takes to get what she wants. And so at the end of summer, I can offer to her, hey, I have a few extra hours right now. Why don't we go through this one drawer or this one portion of your closet? And she can accept or decline that help. But at the end of the summer, whether or not she has a new bedroom set or not is entirely dependent on which discomfort she will choose. The discomfort of not getting what she wants in the long term, which is a new bedroom set, but getting what she wants in the short term, which is her primitive brain winning, right? Not having to clean her room, being able to play with her friends instead. Or she will decide to pay up front, which is do the harder thing now, clean the room so that she can have what she wants later, which is a new paint color, a new bedroom set, having the room that she wants. Now, again, I'm going to offer to help her, just like I am offering to help you. But ultimately, that power to either embrace change or to allow this primitive part of our brain to be the deciding factor is ultimately up to my daughter, and it is ultimately up to you. I just want to point out to you as well that confusion is a tricky way our brains sabotage our desire to exert energy and keep us conserving energy instead. So if your brain is confused, if it's telling you don't have enough time, if it's telling you that you don't know how, or that things just need to change like around the situation, please be aware that that's just your primitive brain trying to conserve energy and not do something hard. You've probably seen this with your teens as well. If their bedroom is out of control, if they have too many missing assignments to count, if they're buried and doing nothing in any regard of their life, it feels insurmountable to exact the result that is expected of them, and they freeze. Have you seen this? We do it too. And dealing with emotions is one of the less visual but highly common areas in which we do this. Parents typically only seek me out when they are finally in too much pain that they can't stand it any longer. They've hit a brick wall, rock bottom, whatever you want to call it. Maybe the police were called, maybe they found weed, sexting, there was a physical altercation. When the pain is so excruciating, then parents will step into the discomfort of doing something different, like coaching or therapy or rehab or whatever is needed. Which leads into the second portion of today's episode. What actually fixes the issue so that we stop spinning and sitting in the tough parenting spots and we can make the changes that we actually want? Are you ready? Here's what actually fixes the issue. Short answer, if you want speed and the least amount of pain and confusion, enlist a professional. Just so that you know, there are 3 ways to work with me. I offer drop-in coaching. This is a $37 a month membership. Currently, I offer 8 hours a month. This is typically several calls a week. And as membership grows, I will add hours so that everyone who comes to the call gets the coaching that they want. $37 for a whole month. You can cancel at any time. This is the best deal on coaching that you probably will ever hear of. I also offer private coaching, once a week calls for 4 months. There's limited availability on this. And then I offer concierge service. I only offer this for 2 to 3 people a year. It's very personal, and I want it to be the best experience of your life. That is why I only take one client at a time. This is unlimited coaching for 6 months. This is you and I are now best friends, and you're going to have my cell phone number. We're going to call, text, all the things all the time. This is for people who have a lot to change and want it to be the most streamlined, efficient way possible. This is definitely a pay up front and reap the rewards later, because for 6 months, we're going to hang out. And then after that, every single relationship in your life is going to be ideal. Kind of wild, kind of crazy. And with my private coaching, either the 4 months weekly coaching or the concierge coaching, if you don't get the result that you want in the 4 or 6 months that you have committed, you will get the next 4 or 6 month coaching package for free. We will do it again to get you where you want to be. Results are basically guaranteed, my friend. Wild, but true. I am so confident that I help parents get where they want to be that I will do it again for free if it didn't meet your needs. I offer a free 30-minute consult call, which we can assess your needs and decide which is the best fit for you. Drop-in coaching, weekly coaching, or concierge. This call in and of itself, just so you know, is really valuable because I'm going to listen to exactly what's going on and give you a custom fit next best step for your specific situation, regardless of if you want to work together or not. You can book this call at heatherfrazier.com. Again, Frazier's Frazier. It's just right there. Apply to work with me. It takes about 2 seconds. Or please, if you don't want to work with me, doesn't hurt my feelings. Work with any other professional you have found that you find competent and connect with. Therapist, coach, psychologist, whatever it is, get an educated pair of eyes on your situation, because I promise they do not just fix themselves. In the meantime, consume what you think could be helpful, like this podcast, other podcasts, YouTube experts, books. Funny story, yesterday I was on Audible and I searched my own book because I'm weird like that, and they had it on sale. I never know what the pricing is on Audible or Amazon. They do whatever they want with my pricing. It was on sale for $6.50 for reals. Okay, so watch Audible if you like books being read to you, or Amazon. You can also get my book on my website if you want me to send you a personalized signed copy with a little bookmark and all the good things. However you like to consume content, learn to recognize when you feel like a hamster running and running and running, but nothing changes because you're on a hamster wheel and nothing is actually happening except you're wasting energy and you're in the same place. That's a huge indicator that you need to do something different. That either your amygdala is doing the driving, that you have unresolved wounds that need dealt with, that you're spinning in confusion, that you need expert eyes on the situation. Those are the big tells. If you're exhausted because you keep trying and trying and trying and nothing is changing, that's like a giant flag that you need to stop what you're doing and start doing something else. See if you can tell what's at play. It will most likely be a few things, not just one. You're trying to seek pleasure, avoid pain, conserve energy. Triggered nervous system is at play from unhealed wounds. And so you are in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Perhaps there is a lack of knowing what else you could do. Or you're buying the lie that time will work its magic, or that something else is going on that you might need an expert to identify. Doing this, recognizing what you're doing, is called meta thinking. And it requires us to shift from our primitive brain, the amygdala, into our most evolved portion of our brain, which is the prefrontal cortex. It's certainly possible, and this is where the life that we dream of lives, with our prefrontal doing the driving. And good news, it's not actually even as hard as we believe. I promise. Again, that's our primitive brain wanting to avoid work, and so it makes it feel very hard, scary, confusing, impossible, or anything else that gets us to not move forward. My friend, these are lies. Your brain is lying to you. It's very, very convincing. Have you ever had to do something difficult that you continued to put off and off and off, and then finally you did it, and it wasn't even that big of a deal? Maybe you even enjoyed it. A work project, home project, hard conversation. This is what I'm talking about. Your brain tries to get you to not do things that exert a lot of energy or might be uncomfortable or aren't fun. And you just have to recognize it for the lie that it is and do the thing anyway. So, to get unstuck and move out of whatever situation you're parenting through is totally possible. I love that you're here with me learning this process. Again, I invite you to a call with me. It's free. It's 20 to 30 minutes, super easy to book. I promise I'm not weird or salesy. I just want to help, which is where we will spend the bulk of our conversation. And then, if at the very end I think I can help you and you're interested in a more long-term relationship with me, so to speak, we'll go over the 3 ways that I work with clients and identify which is the best fit for you. Or seek out another professional. I promise it doesn't hurt my feelings. I just want to help families heal and be the very best families that they can possibly be. Just please don't let your lazy brain trick you into thinking that it's going to fix itself when the situation ends or with enough time. It doesn't. You'll just experience regret in a few years when you've learned that the hard way, and that is what I want to save you from. Again, pay me now or pay me later, but your brain will exact payment over the course of every human life. You cannot avoid it. And so I invite you to prepay and choose the discomfort that gets you closer to the connections and loving family that you want, rather than in avoiding and pretending that all of our default brains will tend toward without our guidance. So let's talk soon. Hit me up at heatherfraser.com, and in the meantime, I will talk to you next week.